Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Today we are looking at the Lord of the Rings Rise Tour, and I've got 10 tips and tricks that you may or may not know of. Some of these might be more self-explanatory, and some of them I kind of had to learn them the hard way, so I'm hoping to save you some headache and maybe some wasted resources and things like that. So we're going to jump right into the video. Number one, always make sure you have units training in your barracks. What I mean by that, you go into your main area here, go to your barracks down here at the bottom left, and you can conscript your different troops. You want to do that. I've been playing probably more than is intended to be played. It's only been out for about 24 hours, and I've probably played for about 8 to 10 hours. Again, figuring stuff out. But the biggest problem I have run into so far, probably maybe it's tied with one other that we're going to get to, is running out of troops. You start getting a couple extra commanders, or even with the few that you just start with, and eventually your numbers start getting lower and lower and lower, and you start not being able to take out the highest level territories that you could. And so you want to make sure to keep your barracks as full as possible. So even if you're not going to get out and play for very long, hop on, throw some people in the queue, close it out, and just try and get the barracks. As you can see, mine is very, very low. I'm just trying to get it up, and so that has been probably the biggest thing so far that I wish I had more of. You can't speed this up to my knowledge at all, so you just gotta wait. So always keep the barracks going, even if you don't think you need it. Keep that thing maxed out. All right, our next tip number 2 is to keep an eye on your resource production per hour. And this might sound super obvious, but I noticed earlier that for my resource production up here at the top, you can see I get about 10,000 almost for each of them. And I recently just brought the stone a couple thousand higher. For whatever reason, the territories I had chosen to go after were a lot lower for stone, or I just didn't have as many stone ones. And so I ended up hitting a bottleneck with stone first, and so I was having to barter resources in the market and kind of wasting resources that way because you don't get a great trade rate for it. So just be aware of what you have. Again, eventually you will run out. You're going to have to wait if you just keep playing and playing and playing, but you want to make sure that you're pretty evenly distributed and you have close to the same amounts for all of them as you're setting up and capturing your land tiles. Tip number 3 is to utilize the tips in the tavern. I'll show you real quick right here. Whenever you come into the tavern, after you first start playing, there'll be a little icon above everyone's heads here, and there are tips on different kind of errands you can go run to get XP and gain respect with different heroes. And you can get those tips as well as the speed up boosts for them that complete them instantly, and those will yield anywhere between 5 and 10,000 XP, and they can yield rare equipment and weapons, as well as the respect points for different heroes. I didn't initially know that you could even speed those up, so if you go over to the store, in the daily discount section, there should be hasty tasks. I bought 8 of those. Again, those are cheap enough that the gems that the game gives you should be enough to stay on top of refreshing the tips and also having enough of the hasty tips to finish those out, and that could net you anywhere. I mean, I did 8 today, and got at least 5,000 on every single one. So if you're trying to get your commanders leveled up, that can be a really easy way to do that without worrying about what troops you have. Tip number 4 is that you can mass delete tiles by clicking right here in this area right here. It'll show you your entire land overview, and if you scroll down, they're sorted by the lowest tiles, the lowest power per hour tile. And I can see here I have 3 level 1 tiles, and so I can just click that X right there and abandon those. It takes 30 minutes, but doing that is so much faster than scrolling around the map trying to see what you have. And eventually you'll want to work your way getting rid of your 10s, replacing with 15s, and just getting more and more, because those other ones are just going to produce more resources for you per hour. So you can see a total overview of what you have here, and mass delete those really easily. I spent a lot of time dragging around the map trying to find stuff. Definitely check out the land overview. Number 5 is that your commanders have stamina or energy right here, and it's not something I noticed at first, and so I was doing a lot of random attacks just to kind of get areas explored and make sure I had a lot of tiles claimed, which isn't a bad thing. But then all of a sudden, once I needed some of my better commanders to do some of the more difficult battles, I was out of energy. And so you can refresh it with these potions. I've not found any of them. I've not seen them in the stores, so I don't know how rare those are. And it only recovers 60, so that's about half. So just keep an eye on that. If you know, make sure you're thinking before you go raid a level 1 tile. You know, is this worth the stamina? And you can see the stamina it costs to raid somewhere. If you go March and click here, you can see it requires 20 for this 1 power land, and it also requires 20 for this 130 power land. So there's no difference based on how difficult it is. So just make sure you're choosing wisely and keeping an eye on your stamina. Number 6, and this might just be a personal preference, but I would suggest always doubling your gold in the gold levy. And you can use 100 of your gems to double. This is just basically slowly generates gold for you, and you can just you know, grab it here. But for 100 gems, you can double it. So instead of getting 3,700, there we go, 7,400. And the reason I say that is because it seems like that's really the only way to get gold very quickly, at least at this point in the game. And I've had upwards of like 40,000 gold from doing that, but it goes so quickly whenever you go into your barracks and you want to upgrade your troops. For example, this spearman, I've got their ability at level 5, which is their damage against mounted units, and that right there costs 9,000. That's all of my gold. And so again, once you get a little bit higher on some of these troops, you just burn through it. So I would suggest always doubling the gold whenever you get those refreshes. The next tip, number 7, is just to be aware of future paths you might want to take and what your neighbors are doing around you. Now, you are able to move your settlement, so if something bad happened and you got kind of closed in, you could move that around. But again, just be aware, keep an eye on things. You know, over here, I can see down on this side, I don't have a lot of room to go down here. In fact, I really can't get over here on this side of the map, the south side. They have it almost completely blocked off. So if I'm wanting to expand that way, which may or may not be necessary for me, I need to keep an eye on that and maybe make myself a path to get through, because if I have no adjacent tiles, then I can't claim land tiles. And so I'm running out of spaces. I mean, I could go through here and kind of snake through, and it's going to get kind of expensive and to do that. But if I wanted to do that for some reason, just be aware of that. If you feel like you are getting boxed in, that you have a little bit of branching out, so you're not just doing just solely around your base. Just be aware of that for future possibilities. Again, you can move your base, but that might be a lot more hassle than it would need to be if you kind of just made sure you had some paths. So just be aware of what your neighbors are doing around you. All right, number 8 is the control panel button. It comes up right here whenever you have available space in your different queues. So if you click that, it'll really quickly just show you kind of at a quick glance what you have going on, what structures you have crafting, who you have in your apothecary being treated, and what soldiers you're conscripting. So again, if you're hopping on and you have 1 minute maybe, this would be a quick way to check what do I have going on. And again, if you had nothing going on here, you'd see really nothing here, and you could go, okay, I can click here, and it takes you in where you need to go to start upgrading some more buildings, so you can just passively be doing stuff. So keep an eye out. That's a really, really quick way to have a good idea of what's going on in your settlement. Number 9, and something I did not know for a little while, is that you can use multiple armies to attack one target. You can't send them at one time together and like select multiple commanders, but you can send them to the same target. And as long as the other army gets there before the tile you're trying to invade has time to recuperate, or if it would defeat another tile of yours and they would retreat, you can use 2 armies. So if I wanted to, let's say, invade this 130 an hour power land, I probably won't be able to take this down with one person. I could go to my commanders, get his army loaded up, send him there, and then immediately having another commander, with a full army as well, send them right after. And the first one might end in defeat or draw, but the second one gets to piggyback off of that and pick it up, so it's not actually the full strength of that. So I actually used, I think, like 4 or 5 armies to take out a 130 land here. This one right here, I had to do it for one of the quests, and so I had to use like 4 to 5 different armies, and it was kind of juggling things around. I wouldn't totally suggest just like burning through troops like that, but if you need to get through something, you can use multiple troops. And our last tip or trick for this video is that you can use your ability points. That's these little things up here, the red kind of fire looking things. I wasn't 100% sure what those were at first, but you use them by clicking on land that you own, and you can do any of these 4 options here. And one that I would suggest doing is the mock battle. So again, if you're looking at your commanders, maybe you're getting off the day, you're about to go to bed, and you see, man, okay, I've got, these guys have a lot of stamina. This is full. A lot of your people have a lot of energy and it's just going to be sitting there idling. You're not going to be doing anything with it. You can do the mock battles. And so let's say I select Boromir. He has 120 out of 120. He's got a lot of energy. I can go down here. You can see that it costs 20 energy. And I can then increase the time he spends mock battling there, which would increase it to 40. That's all the ally points I have, but you could have up to 20. And so you could say, hey, I'm getting off for the night, and this is going to regenerate while I'm sleeping anyway. So let me put this up to an hour, 2 hours, whatever you can afford. And that not only gets you more experience, but it will use more of that energy so it's not just sitting there burning up, which I did not know after playing the first time. And if you're playing a lot, you may not have a lot of extra to spare. And right now I'm just waiting on more ability points, so it won't always apply. But there definitely could be times where you could say, hey, I can throw this guy in here for an hour, get some XP, and use some of that stamina that's just sitting full for a while. Alrighty, that's going to wrap up our list today for 10 tips and tricks for the Lord of the Rings Rise to War. I'm really enjoying this game so far. I'm excited to see what new things they keep adding to it and how it kind of evolves as people start learning more and more about the game. If you like what you saw today, consider subscribing and hitting the like button. I post videos like this with tips and tricks and strategies and other things like that. And I stream over on Twitch, so if you want to come hang out as we just play live and kind of have discussions and kind of figure out this game, I'll have the links to that down below. But thank you so much for stopping by, and we'll see you in the next video.